Hi, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be doing a coolant change while she's still on the jacks. Then I'm going to get her off the jacks, which, as you can see, I managed to do successfully. Then I'm going to look at the USB solution that I've used to get music directly Bluetoothed into the infotainment system, which is a really nice cheap solution at about £5, so I'm happy with that, and it worked. Then I'm going to also look at the OBDII Scanner, just show you what I've been using to get the transmission oil temperature and all those sorts of things. And then hopefully get some nice down the road video footage, because as you see, I've got the pole on the back and hopefully that's worked nicely. If this video is any use to you and you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks very much. Right, so I'm just doing my coolant change quickly. So what I've done is I've taken off the cap up here, undone the drain valve on the bottom of the radiator, and I've dropped out about 10 litres of coolant. It might be slightly more. The capacity is 13 litres, so there's still 3 litres trapped in the engine. For simplicity, what I'm going to do now is, rather than fill up the new coolant and go, well, I'm leaving 3 litres, that's about 25% left over in the engine, I'm going to fill her up with deionized water. And then run her up to temperature, and that will mix everything, and then I'm going to drop that out and then put in the correct amount of antifreeze coolant to finish it off. That means that I will only have probably about 300 millilitres of the original coolant left in the engine, which I'm going to accept because it's too difficult to do anything else. So that should be quite a good way of flushing her out fairly quickly and easily and simply. I've then got to figure out where to take all this old coolant. Which is a bit annoying because everyone tells you what you can't do. They say you can't put it down the drain. They say you can't take it to recycling centres. Most of them won't accept it. They just say you've got to dispose of it in a safe, environmentally friendly way. How about telling me how to do it? Anyhow, I have to do some more research. If I find an answer, I'll stick it up on the screen. Right, let's fill her up with this water. So I can confirm that after checking with my local recycling centre, they did take the antifreeze, which was really great. The original specified coolant doesn't seem to be available anymore in the UK, so after lots of faffing around and looking at organic additive technologies and stuff, I decided to go for this Shell coolant long life stuff. It's red in colour other than blue, but the colour doesn't seem to make any difference. Oh, why is that going up to 60? Right, no variator noise, that's a good sign. A little bit of smoky round here, which is probably all the oils that I've managed to drop. Oh, the water's dropping. I'm a bit confused because my accumulator should have stayed at 0 and it's gone up to 65 psi. It might be that this valve can only stop the oil going one way, in which case it refills itself on its own. If that's actually the case, that will make my wiring on this really easy, because essentially all I have to do is, when I come to start the engine, I put a switch in, you press the switch, wait 5 seconds, start the car up, and it will naturally fill up the accumulator again. So there's only one action, like a pre-start button if you like, just dump the oil. Don't know, I'll have to see how that one runs. Right, I've got to let it run to temperature now. As I say, that will let all of this coolant run around. But no variator noise. That's now the 3rd cold start and no noise. Statistically, one more, but realistically 10-15 starts, if there's no noise, I think I can be fairly sure that for whatever reason, whatever logic, it kind of works. And you can think that there is logical reasons. Anyhow, she's got new engine mounts as well now, so yeah, she's feeling a lot less vibratey than she did before. Vibratey, that's not a word, is it? Oh, I'm in the middle of a training course today, so this is my hour's lunch break. If I can get this quickly done and drain down, then tonight I can fill her up with coolant, and that's my coolant job finished, which means tomorrow I just need to torque up the subframe bolts, and then I can drop her off, and she's back on the road fully again. And that means the coolant would have been changed, engine oil changed, transmission oil, differential oil, new engine mounts, and the accumulator fitted. So she'll be in pretty good state at that point. Yeah, so looking at the accumulator, it's gone all the way up to 70 psi, and it seems to be stabilized there. So I'm thinking that this solenoid is like one way, because it does have a direction arrow, and you can imagine that if it's like any kind of spring or something, it will, you lift it to dump it, and then perhaps the oil can force its way back up again. So that is actually going to be really good, because it means you'll get maximum pressure in here rather than the pressure at idle, or the pressure, you know, you'll have the maximum amount of pressure, a maximum amount of oil ready for the next start. So yeah, the water started to go a bit blue. Maserati seems to leave all these cable ties long. I guess it's because you can kind of undo these, I think. They've got little clickers on them, the little things on here, so you can go like that and undo them. But it's really bizarre. Everywhere there's these long sort of tails hanging around. She seems fairly happy. So I've put the little switch just up here. Oh look, my bloody lens is dirty. So I've put the little switch for the solenoid just up here. I just stuck it just in there, and you just press on that button and it drops the oil out the solenoid. I took the wiring from it round here to the cigarette lighter, and I've just tapped into the cigarette lighter's cable. The cigarette lighter has a brown, black, and something like a yellow and black on there. So 3 wires. Bizarrely, you would think the brown would be the positive. No, the black is the positive. It's a little bit strange, but that's actually on the cigarette lighter. The wires coming up to the cigarette lighter are then different colors as per the manual. So yeah, you just have the little switch here. Turn the ignition on, because the cigarette lighter is not live until you turn the ignition on. Dump the oil, wait about 5 seconds, holding the button, let go, and then start the engine. There can be a gap between dumping the oil and starting the engine of a few seconds, I've noticed, at least a few seconds, because when I was messing around with the accumulator first, you know, obviously it puts pressure in there, the oil gets to the top, and you've got a few seconds before it starts all draining down again into the sump. That's quite cool. Oh, let's see if has my green service light gone off, because I reset it with my Autel A200 or whatever it is. Cycling through now. Door. Yep. My green service spanner's gone. That's great. Well, I'm really cold, and I think she's up to temperature. So I've got cold, and the car's got warm. So I'm hoping now, you can see the water actually comes up through this pipe, and I can see it all nicely mixing. The thermostat's definitely open. This has all gone nice and warm. I think I'm just about there. Once I stop her, I've got to wait probably about 20-30 minutes. I'll dump the water out then, so I won't dump it out until she's cooled down a bit. So I'll go and have me lunch, and then I've got to go straight into training again. Joy. So the drain is just there on the bottom of the radiator. There it goes. So then I mixed up the coolant 50-50 with deionized water, filled her up, and it was time to get her off the jacks. Right, so here she is. Coolant's all topped up. Everything's ready. I've dejacked the rear. I've got to start her up now, get her off the ramps, and then take her for a run. After 4 weeks. Hey! So, no noise, which is the big thing. The pressure dropped down to 6 psi, and now it's back up to 60 psi, and I only touch the button once. So that means it does its own thing now, which is great. And no variator noise, so that's fantastic. So when I put the covers back on with these little flange screws, which are really expensive, I think they're £6 each or something, so you really don't want to break them. £7, is I will run a little bit of copperies on them, because there's a couple that have corroded a bit and were a bit dodgy getting out, and one's obviously snapped off at some point down in these corners. Obviously the water and junk collects, so I'm going to clean all this up, and a little bit of copperies. That one's the one that snapped off, but it's happened there. That's not too bad, but this corner, so obviously all the water runs down here and then these corrode. So oh, this is a big box. So fresh from Euro Spares, a rather cool Undertray. Now this is quite expensive. I mean, you talk about 90 quid, I think it is, brand new original Maserati Undertray, straight from the factory. But on eBay, these things are like 150 to 300 quid, second hand, with broken, clips and all kinds of stuff on them. So it goes to show the sort of, you really need to check on eBay, and you need to check what the actual part costs new, because quite often a lot of the parts on eBay are more expensive than what they would be brand new, straight from a supplier, straight from Maserati. So next I thought I'd show you the little Bluetooth adapter that I've bought for the USB socket in the glove box. This is about £5 off eBay and seems to work quite well. Not a huge amount of volume. Anyway, Maseratis come with a USB socket in the glove box. Some of them do not have the data function. If they don't have the little USB symbol on it, then they don't have data, it's just a power socket. Mine has the data symbol, and sometimes the phone will at least recognize it, but for some reason I can't get it to work with my iPhone, and I think a lot of people have had that problem. But this, of course, just uses the power and plugs straight into the auxiliary port like that, and it can be left in place permanently. It won't run the battery down. So now if I get in the car and I turn my ignition on, it all wakes up. And the really cool thing is now if I go on my phone, I can show you it working. Basically, if I go on here, I'm on aux on the infotainment system. And if I go on here, oops, I'm not going to show you me entering my passcode. That's the OBDII scanner again. If I go on here, my phone stops messing me around. Look, I just press. And you see. It doesn't seem to like my thumb. Is my thumb looks okay. Sometimes it just won't recognize my thumb. I've had this with phones all the time. If you're trying to do something, or I'm not going to say if you're driving, but it just won't recognize your fingers. Other times it's super sensitive, and you sneeze and you end up on the wrong web page or something dodgy, That's my excuse anyway. yeah, anyhow, so that seems to work really well. Now I leave it plugged in all the time. You just get in the car, you press play, and it all runs nicely on its own. You know, and as I say, I just find that really quite cool. The other thing with these, of course, is they do have jukebox. So if you put a CD in, you can record that CD onto the jukebox, so it's permanently in the car's system. I've got a load of terrible music on here from previous owners. I mean, like most Maseratis, this has got like 8 previous owners who had horrendous taste in music. So it's some kind of weird rappy sort of, I don't know, it sounds terrible. I'm hoping I can find a way to delete it, because quite frankly it's jamming up the system, and occasionally I accidentally press the wrong button and I end up swearing and sort of moaning about it. So I'm hoping I can just wipe it off that system and clear it. If I find a way, I'll put it up now. So then the other thing to look at was the Autel. So if I get rid of this and I go into my settings again and I find the Autel, I think it's that one there. It seems to be able to connect to both at the same time, by the way, which is quite cool. EP would like to communicate. Yep. Now if I go and find the Autel bit, where is it? That's the one there. So diagnostics. Stupid bloody thing. Oh, there you go. Right, it's found itself. So we select Granturismo. So on the Autel, you can have one set of data, one set of OBDII diagnostic data for free when you buy the Autel unit for about 50 quid. You can then get another one. So I was thinking of doing it for the Volvo as well, but then it's subscription. So I might just buy another scanner and leave it in the Volvo permanently, because I could do one for the Volvo. Anyhow, so I can pick auto scan or control unit. Quick point here, if you use auto scan, sometimes scanning all of the modules can upset the next module that's going to be scanned, because it basically does a diagnosis and then throws up an error. So sometimes it's best to just scan each unit individually. So if I just pick something really simple like powertrain, I think it's the NE7 engine, isn't it? And then if I go read codes, I know my code's on at the moment. So it's got engine oil pressure sensor, plausibility, invalid signal. That's because of the accumulator. When you press the oil accumulator button, it gives oil pressure to the engine. Then of course, the oil pressure stops, and then you start the engine and you get the oil pressure back again. So the computer thinks there's something wrong with the oil pressure sensor. It comes on occasionally and it goes off by its own. It gets stored, so it's not on the dashboard at all anyway. That second one is some sort of leak in the secondary air system that I need to fix. I think it's literally just it might be something dodgy, I don't know, but apparently it's not particularly serious. So that's how you read the codes. Right, so obviously this scanner does a few things. It can do the emergency parking brake and all that sort of stuff, but one of the main things that is good to get rid of is the little green spanner on your dashboard that says you need to do a service. So you just go into service, there's the oil reset, and you just press on that and it goes through a couple of instructions, and then you can reset that, and then of course your spanner goes off for another, I can't remember how many miles it is, 12,000 miles or something between services, they say. Obviously I'll do it much sooner than that anyway. So that's the Autel scanner, which seems to work quite well really. And as I say, I've just left it plugged in there all the time. And one of the things that does mean, I think, is when you're driving the car, you can actually get actual live data out of it. Very fancy things that you'll use once, think that's amazing, and then probably never use again. Having said that, of course, I actually did use it when I did the transmission oil change to get the direct reading of the temperature of the transmission from the transmission sensor, and it was very good for that.
Hello everyone, in this video I'm sat here by my dad's Maserati and it is brilliant. He's gifted me his Maserati because he's too old and bony to drive anymore and I'm young and amazing. If you find this video helpful, then please also look at my Mookies now. Thanks.